Today we got a story about a spoiled kid who acts like he owns the world, but then the principal brings him back to reality, and it's super satisfying. I know you'll enjoy it, so let's just jump right into it.
And we're crying, 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 like a wounded animal.
So we're going to call the subscriber who submitted this story Jeff. So anyways, right, there was a kid in Jeff's class who we're going to call the spoiled kid because he was genuinely just like the most spoiled kid on planet Earth. His parents gave him everything, and because he always got anything he ever wanted, he just had an air of entitlement to him. He genuinely believed that he received everything that he's received, not because it was given to him, but because it was his right. He was born into the right to have everything, right? Basically, he believed that, everything that was going well for him in life, he genuinely believed that was because of his own grit or intelligence, or, which, I guess some of it was, but the majority of, what he had was because it was given to him. So this can kind of mess up a kid when this happens to them because they'll basically have their ego inflated so bad that they'll end up doing ridiculous stuff. And this was a great example of it. So this spoiled kid, right? One day, Jeff had a girlfriend. We're going to call this, what are we going to call her? We're going to call her Maddie, right? So Jeff's girlfriend, Maddie, they've been together for a year. They were a solid relationship, right? So this was high school for context for the setting. And Maddie and Jeff were together for a while, and they were a very strong relationship. There was no way that Maddie was going to cheat on him. However, the spoiled kid who believed that he was entitled to everything in the planet saw Maddie, thought she was beautiful, and decided, you know what? That's my girl now, man. He genuinely believed that oh wow, if I want something, I will get it. So this all started one day when the spoiled kid started to hit on Jeff's girlfriend Maddie, and he's walking down the aisle, or not the aisle, the the hallway. Jeff went off to go get something, and Jeff turns around to see that the spoiled kid walked up to Maddie and is talking with her, and you can kind of just tell by the spoiled kid's body language that he is definitely interested in something, that he's definitely not just asking for directions or, oh, do you have a pencil, or kind of asking for something that you might ask anyone. He was very clearly had a pretty strong intention for what he was doing, and it was pretty obvious what he wanted, right? So, Maddie started walking back to Jeff, the subscriber, and Jeff was like, oh, what's that? Because Jeff thought, okay, maybe Maddie and the spoiled kid were friends or something, and he just didn't know anything about it. And Maddie's like, I think that guy just hit on me. And Jeff turns around to see the spoiled kid, and they both look at the spoiled kid, and the spoiled kid turns around and literally winks at Maddie, gives her the 2 finger guns, and then walks away. The cringiest thing you've ever seen, bro. So sure enough, Jeff looks at Maddie and is like, ew, what? Because, the spoiled kid was very notorious for being, how do I put this, not the greatest guy ever. He was just notorious for being super spoiled, entitled, super arrogant, cocky, just not a good kid, right? And Maddie's like, yeah, no, this is very unfortunate. This kind of sucks, dude. I don't want to have to reject him, but I also am going to reject him. And Jeff's I think it's pretty obvious. I think it's pretty common knowledge that you and I have been in a relationship for a while. It's not like we've been hiding it. It's not like some kind of big secret we have kept from everyone. And Maddie's like, yeah, I'm 90% sure he knows that too. So I don't really know what he's doing. And they kind of came to the conclusion that the spoiled kid did know that Maddie was in a relationship with Jeff. But, at the end of the day, if you've gotten everything you've ever wanted, and if you wanted something, you get it no matter what, at the end of the day, I think the spoiled kid had the mentality of just because, there's a goalie in the goal doesn't mean I can't score, bro. I'm still going to make my moves, which he will make his moves in just a second. Don't worry, boys and girls. But anyways, so Maddie's like, oh, God, he definitely knows. And Jeff's like, dude, yeah, he definitely does know. Maddie's like, okay, well, I'm going to have to reject him, right? And Jeff's like, okay, well, reject him if he asks for anything, but, we don't even know if he's totally into you yet. We don't know if he's going to do anything. And Maddie just looks at Jeff Jeff, I know how guys act. I know how guys act when they like me. It's the way that you acted around me a year ago or whatever. And Jeff's like, well, okay, fair. You got me there. She's like, he's definitely going to try something. I'm just going to reject him when he doesn't. Jeff's like, cool, okay, whatever. So the next day, they're sitting at lunch together because Jeff would normally hang out with the boys a lot, but he kind of carved out lunchtime for specific time with his girlfriend. So Jeff and Maddie were sitting at lunch together, as they always did, right? And the spoiled kid came and sat down. So it was a 4-person table, but there's enough tables in the cafeteria that people could sit by themselves, no problem. And so Jeff and Maddie were sitting together at a 4-person table with just 2 of them, and no one else would really sit down because everyone knew they were basically just going on a date every single day at lunch. Like, it was their private time, and so many tables around that there was no need to sit with him. It's not like you'd have, oh, we're out of seats, I gotta sit with you guys. But anyways, the spoiled kid literally sits down next to Jeff. And it's like, what's up, Maddie? Like, my name's like, spoiled kid. Like, nice to meet you. And Jeff's like, oh my God. And Maddie's like, hello. It's like a bit of a question mark, right? And the spoiled kid say, oh yeah, what's up? Is this your like friend or something? Maddie's like, this is my boyfriend. And at that point, the spoiled kid looks and it's like, oh yeah, right, whatever, same thing. Dude, the spoiled kid literally says, oh, yeah, same thing. Yeah, right, a boyfriend and a friend are the same thing, dude. I mean, maybe in the spoiled kid's mind, in his perception, like, friend, boyfriend, husband of 10 years with 3 children, same thing, dude. Potato, it doesn't matter to me because you're going home with me either way. But, truth is, that's not how it was about to go. So he literally just, acknowledges Jeff's presence for a second, saying, yeah, same thing, whatever, kind of like trying to nullify the fact that he is literally Maddie's boyfriend, and then immediately turns to Maddie and just starts, talking her up. And I don't mean being like, how's your day? I mean being like, you look beautiful in that whatever that you're wearing. Like, oh my God, like, your nails complement your eyes so much. Like, oh, did you hear? I actually have this really crazy whip, and like, all my girls are able to drive in it, and you can take photos for your Instagram. Like, literally the most blatant stuff ever. And it was really freaking cringy and uncomfortable for Jeff because dude was literally sitting right there as this guy fails to try and pick up his girlfriend as he's sitting right there. And Jeff wasn't some crazy confrontational guy. Yeah, I don't think I'd be pretty happy if I had a girlfriend. Sad. If I had a girlfriend and some guy came up and tried to minimize my presence and started flirting with her super blatantly. If I had a girlfriend, I don't think I wouldn't care if she talked with guys because I have plenty of platonic relationships with women. I think having relationships with people across that's not the same gender as you, I think that's a really cool part of life because there's kind of different energy with different people I've personally found. So yeah, I personally wouldn't care, but at the same time, I think if someone was very blatantly flirting with someone who's my girlfriend while I was sitting right there, I wouldn't be like, hey man, that's my girl, back off. Dude, I can definitely tell if she's able to manage it or not. I don't think I'd be very happy about it. I wouldn't be like, yeah, this is my boy. Yeah, no. Come in for, I can share, man. I wouldn't be happy, but also this guy is very clearly not a threat. So Jeff kind of sat there really awkwardly. Just what, dude, what do I do right now? This guy's flirting at my girlfriend, but he's failing, and I know it's not going to succeed, but I have to sit here and listen to it. This is just so uncomfortable right now. And, yeah, Maddie was kind of as this guy was yeah, so, all my girls get, the best treatment ever. I got it, they get, the craziest presents for their birthday. And, if you were my girl, it would be the same deal. You don't understand. You would be, you'd be my princess, and you'd be treated like one. Have you ever wanted to know what it would be like to be treated like royalty? And Maddie's just looking at him dude, okay. Sure, man, you might be able to buy me a cool bag or something, but that doesn't negate the fact that, one, I have a boyfriend, but even if I didn't, that still means I have to spend time with you. And you're such a trash person that's you'd have to pay me $1 million per year. It's a full-time job, bro. It'd be a full-time, hard, arduous job for me to hang out with you. You're gonna have to pay me a lot more than one really nice bag and a good time on my birthday only. Because it would be a full-time job, bro. You need to pay me a lot if I was gonna be with you, right? So she's kind of just sitting there with a very blank look. And look, the thing is, too, is Maddie was making it as clear as humanly possible that she was not interested, that she was not rocking with the spoiled kid, right? Because she was just sitting there giving him a very kind of glazed over expression, a very blank look, a very just like, bro, can you please leave type look. Like, she wasn't like saying thank you to any of the compliments. She wasn't being like, oh, tell me more, when he was like, yeah, oh, my girls get the best treatment ever. Eventually, though, the spoiled kid is like, so, what are you doing this Friday night? So if you just tell me, well, like, your home address, like, I'll literally come in like the sickest whip ever, and I will pick you up, and we can drive around anywhere, and just so people can see you in such a cool car with me if you'd like. Like, it's just a courtesy I give to my girlfriends. By the way, you'd be one of many girlfriends because I'm an alpha male top dog, bro. Just so you know, but, like, I treat all my girlfriends really well. Maddie's just looking at him like, bro, who are you, man? Who are you? And by the way, that was a bluff. He didn't have any other girlfriends, but he thought if he told girls that he had 1,000 girlfriends, that they would be like, oh, wow. I don't know, a proof of concept, man. You must be great. If other people are your girlfriends, then I would love to be as well. Haha, no, it was the dumbest thing ever, right? So Maddie then is like, hey, no, I'm actually busy. I can't. And the spoiled kid's like, whatever, it's fine. I'm actually, I'm looking at my calendar right now, man. I'm actually so busy Friday night. Yep, okay, it doesn't work for me either. I have a lot of business to do. Yeah, I'm on a business call. Complete bluff, but whatever. He's like, oh, so what about that Saturday? She's like, busy. He's like, oh, what about any time this month? Which, bro, I thought you just said you were on a business call. I thought you're a busy businessman, right? Oh, but now you're free for the entire month? Like, really? Did it really just turn that fast? And she's like, nope, sorry. I also actually have no interest on going on a date. I'm fine being friends, but I'm in a relationship. I made that very clear. And he's like, yeah, but dude. And the spoiled kid literally points at Jeff and goes like, kind of like makes this motion of like, him? Really? And Jeff turns around and is like, dude, I'm sitting right here, bro. Like, chill the frick out. Like, I'm sitting right here. Because this kid was literally pointing at Jeff, looking at Maddie and being like, him? This is the guy? When you can choose me? And at this point, the spoiled kid just can't believe, because here's the thing. The spoiled kid has never been told no. He's received everything, and he's never had to work for anything. And he has just been told no. His entire world has just been turned upside down because someone told him no. This is unheard of. This is unbelievable. The spoiled kid can't believe his ears. Someone said no to him. That's ridiculous, man. But sure enough, right? Sure enough, Maddie holds her ground. She's like, no, sorry. And the spoiled kid, since he can't believe that a girl would ever reject him, decides to turn to Jeff and blames Jeff and be like, bro, I don't know, like, what you did to make her say no to me. And Jeff's like, well, be her boyfriend? What the frick? What? Dude, huh? But he's like, dude, you're gonna, like, pay for it, man. I'm gonna make your life a living hell for this. Like, bro, you totally messed up big. You don't even know. The spoiled kid gets up and, like, storms out of the room. And Jeff just looks at Maddie and be like, well, that was one of the most uncomfortable situations I've been in. And Maddie looks at him and is like, dude, yeah, you think about me. I just had to listen to this kid basically just touch his own peenie for 25 minutes, talking about how great he is, and then ask me out. Like, what? Dude, I said I had a boyfriend in the first 30 seconds. He just kept going. He didn't care. Jeff's like, yeah, how do you think I feel? I was emasculated for the... Well, actually, no, I wasn't emasculated. The whole thing was pretty funny. Like, I knew I was chilling, but dang. Well, I guess we're about to see how he's going to quote-unquote ruin my life. Jeff really thought this kid was bluffing. Jeff really thought that this, like, the spoiled kid was just saying this to try and get under Jeff's skin or whatever, which he kind of did a little bit because Jeff was pretty annoyed by the whole situation. But Jeff didn't really expect that the spoiled kid was going to follow through and do anything. However, the spoiled kid was a little bit more true to his word than Jeff imagined. Since the spoiled kid always kind of got anything he ever wanted, he kind of just assumed that, oh, he's not actually going to follow through with this. Like, he's literally just saying this. But no, the spoiled kid actually went ahead and did something bad. So anyways, right, one day, the next day, Jeff is walking back home. So Jeff lives close enough that he can just walk back home. So every single day, he'd get his backpack, say goodbye to his girlfriend, say peace to the boys. Maybe they're going to hop on Fortnite later that night. Who knows, right? He just walks back. Normally, he'll, like, throw in some music or something, put in some, like, earbuds or whatever. Maybe he'll just, like, I don't know, enjoy nature for once. Nah, that's cringe, man. He puts in music. No, I'm just kidding. But this one day, Jeff is walking back, and he's just, he doesn't have his earbuds in. I think he just maybe, I don't know, maybe his phone died or he just wasn't feeling it. And that's when he hears a car drive by. Look, he walks back on a path that's near a road. Of course, cars drive by all the time. You might be thinking, why am I even saying this? Well, the car didn't drive by normally. It started to slow down. And when a car slows down, it normally will either kind of idle, it'll park, but there's no parking spots around this part of the pathway. So it was a little weird. So Jeff kind of turns his head to look over, and he sees a car, a very fancy BMW car, and it was a very fancy one, right? And it slows down, and the window rolls down, and he sees the spoiled kid. The spoiled kid's like, Jeff, you didn't think I was going to let you go that easy, right? And so Jeff in his head is like, oh, okay, the spoiled kid has not forgotten about the events of today, I guess. Maybe he wants to embarrass himself more. Maybe he has a thing for public humiliation, because right now he is publicly humiliating himself, bro. I don't know what else to say here. And Jeff's like, dude, what's good? What's up right now? And the spoiled kid's like, I don't know what you told Maddie to get her to not go on a date with me, but that's not cool, bro. And Jeff looks at him with a kind of a look of just, how can I get this through your thick little skull? Dude. And he literally says, turns to him, dude, I'm her girlfriend. I'm her boyfriend. We've been together for a year. She was not going to say yes to you, even if she would have wanted to in the first place, which she didn't. And the spoiled kid's like, yeah, right, that's funny, bro. You know how many girls that I've gotten with that have been in relationships? At least 100, which, dude, maybe if he said 1 or 2, it would have been believable. But dude said 100, bro has definitely not gotten with anyone who's been in a relationship. And so Jeff looks at him and says, well, okay, I guess those girls didn't have as good a relationship as Maddie and I have. I don't know how else to say it. At this point, the spoiled kid's like, dude, that's just not possible, bro. My Riz was on point, 100%. Dude, you don't understand, bro. I'm a god of Riz, bro. All the chicks, I have a 100% conversion rate. I'm 100%. I've slept with 1,000 women at this point. Dude, what? Yeah, so sure. I'm having way too much fun with these impressions sometimes, guys. I'm just... Anyways, though, so Jeff is, looking at this kid. This kid is a major cap artist. This is so stupid. Why am I even giving this guy, the light of day? Jeff's like, I don't know what to say, man. Go, hit on some other girl. Maddie and I are in a good relationship. She's not going to get with you. Leave me alone. Goodbye. So he starts walking away. And so the spoiled kid is driving by him in his car. And is slows down but keeps up pace with Jeff's walking. Spoiled kid's like, bro, don't think you're going to get out of this that easy, right? Don't think you're going to get out of this. I'm telling you, bro, I'm giving you a chance because I'm a humble, respectful, nice guy, right? And Jeff is like, you're a what? He's like, dude, I'm going to give you 24 hours to untell Maddie whatever you told her, whatever lie you told her, to get her to not go out on a date with me. I'm going to give you 24 hours or your life's going to freaking suck, bro. And so... yeah, the subscriber, Jeff, kind of looks at this kid and says, no. I didn't say anything, but also, no. Dude, what? And the spoiled kid's like, dude, okay, I'm going to give you 24 hours to reconsider. And, yeah, you're lucky I'm even giving you 24 hours or even an option to get out of a life of pain. And Jeff's just looking at this kid like, okay, bro, bring it, I guess. So, yeah, Jeff walks away and the kid drives away. And Jeff is kind of just thinking to himself, what the frick just happened? So he picks up his phone, calls Maddie. Maddie's like, oh, what's good? He's like, dude, the spoiled kid just came up to me and said that, I had 24 hours to untell you whatever I told you that made you not go out with him. Because it definitely wasn't because, A, we're in a relationship, and B, because maybe he's just not attractive to people like you because of his character and how much of a skadoosh he is. Maybe that's the reason. And Maddie's like, yeah, this kid's delusional. And he said, I have 24 hours or my life will be, terrible, and he'll make it terrible. And Maddie's like, oh, well, that's not good. And he's like, yeah, Maddie, don't worry about it. I really don't care. This kid, what can this kid do? So this kid actually did some stuff. Yeah, and we're going to get into that. So the spoiled kid, I'm not going to tell you. I will tell you in a second. But the next day, Jeff gets into school. And Jeff is friendly with a lot of people. Jeff is friends with a lot of people, but he's only close friends with a couple. Honestly, that's kind of how it goes. You really only need 2 or 3 really tight-knit friends, and then what beyond that is kind of just gravy, in my opinion. I think it's really nice to be friendly with a ton of people. Maybe you have like boys in a class, like you know someone in your class, you always hang out with them, you chill with them in class, but you don't talk to them that much outside of class. Maybe you walk to class with some guys, or maybe you chill with someone at one, like people you aren't that close with, but it's just nice to kind of have a network of people you're friends with. So anyways, Jeff got into school, and there's kind of like a routine he'd go through. Like he'd see person X for a second, he'd see person Y as they're walking by, he'd catch up with person Z. All these people would see him, would turn away, basically run away from him. Out of like the 15 people Jeff normally spoke with every day, 0 out of 15. They all saw him coming and turned and went the other way. Jeff didn't make the connection, but he was like, dude, something's really weird. And it was just really weird, dude. Like, Jeff had no idea how to react to it. So Jeff, like, at lunch, like, sits down and talks to his girlfriend. He's like, hey, like, people are acting really weird to me today. And she's like, Jeff, like, I need to tell you something. And he's like, yeah, Maddie, like, what's good? And she's like, I heard, like, the spoiled kid did something crazy. And Jeff's like, crazier than yesterday? And she's like, yes, much crazier. Basically, this kid has gone around and figured out everybody that you talk with, and basically he's paying them every single day to not talk to you and to avoid you. Apparently he's paying them like $10 every single day just to not talk to you. And at this point, Jeff's like, what? Yeah, so the spoiled kid had access to a lot of money, and I know some of you guys might be thinking $10, like really, but you have to realize, first of all, this is high school. $10 is freaking huge. Like even now, like I do stuff for $10, but at the same time, it's like, especially in high school, $10 a day. And also the only thing you have to do is just not talk to someone you're not even super close with. Like all 15 of those people did it. Are they kind of snakes for doing it? Yeah, a little bit, but at the end, it was a good deal, like the free market, I guess. But anyways, so Jeff's like, well, that explains all the weirdness that's happening today. And Maddie's like, I'm sorry, like this is my fault. And he's like, no, this is not your fault. This is this cringe kid who can't accept that he loses, right? He can't accept that he doesn't get everything that he ever wants. You know what? Let's play hardball. I don't care. So Jeff only had one friend. He had his girlfriend, and then he had one friend. He used to talk to like 20, 30 people every single day. Social life got super reduced, completely cut down. Jeff kind of expected that the spoiled kid would just stop after a couple days and he'd be able to talk to these people again, even though he doesn't even really know if he wants to talk to these people again, because he doesn't really know if he wants to associate with people that would completely drop him for BS reasons for only $10. Like, really, man? Really, dude? But anyways, it just keeps going. And after about a week and a half, Jeff's like low-key not having a good time, dude. Because there's like one person that he talks with, and he kind of like, because this is like his close friend, right? It's his girlfriend and his close friend. But he misses like being able to talk with a bunch of people. And the spoiled kid is not letting down. If anything, he's paying off more and more people to not talk to Jeff, to exclude him from activities outside of school, to not let him like do stuff, whatever. And Jeff's social life is kind of getting crunched, which is really unfortunate. So Jeff goes to one of his close, not friends, but someone that he looks up to, someone that he has a great relationship with, and that is the principal. Yes, finally, not the main character, but the secret character that's in the title that is going to come in and save the day is finally being introduced. So Jeff and the principal went way back. So a long time ago, Jeff was a lot more of a rowdy kid who would break a lot more rules. He broke a pretty big rule, and like him and the principal had to spend a lot of time together because like he did something kind of bad. It wasn't like terrible, but it was like, for the time, it wasn't great. And him and Jeff actually bonded over a lot of stuff. They both had specific family life issues that they could relate on, you know, and he kind of became a secondary father mentor figure type thing. And Jeff would go speak with the principal every once in a while about like life, about things, how things were going. Jeff was doing pretty well in school, and he wasn't breaking any rules or anything, completely changed his trajectory. It was mostly all thanks to the principal. So this time, he asked the principal if he could talk, and they sat down. The principal's like, so, what's up? And Jeff basically explains the last 25 minutes to the principal. I'm not going to re-explain it because you guys have already heard it. And by the end of it, the principal's like, wow, like, I knew that kid was a little weird, but this is really extreme. And the principal, first of all, says, okay, well, as much as this sucks, first thing I will say is that the people that, are being paid $10 to not be friends with you anymore really aren't good friends in the first place. And while this is really unfortunate, I guess it really does show you who is actually your friend or not. And the principal says, I used to have a really big social circle, but, the second I wasn't reaching out to them every 5 seconds, they kind of just fell off the map. And the principal says, I really only talk to like 2 to 3 people every single day now. And my life's okay. But that doesn't excuse what this guy is doing. And the principal says, you know what? I think I can help you out. So this is what the principal does. He calls in Jeff's friend. And he says, hey, is there any chance that, that you've been offered money by the spoiled kid? And Jeff's friend says, yeah, he's been texting me for the last week or so, asking every single day to give me $10 to stop hanging out with him. It's so annoying. And he's like, I'd never say yes. That's ridiculous. And the principal's like, whoa, chill out. We're going to call Jeff's close friend, the only friend that stuck with him, Ben. And the principal's like, actually, can I see your phone? I want you to help me catch this guy. And then Ben's like, oh, okay, word, cool. So Ben hands over the phone. And the principal responds to the text message, the 1,000 text messages, right? Saying, I'll give you $10 if you stop hanging out with him. And the principal's like, hey, on Ben's account, acting like he's Ben, basically is saying, okay, yeah, actually I've changed my mind. I'll take the $10. And the principal starts going on to ask more questions about so out of curiosity, how many other people are you doing this with? Are you paying all these people? What's the motive? At this point, the spoiled kid is spilling everything because the spoiled kid is just so excited because the spoiled kid truly believes that he just got Ben. Because he thinks, I got all of Ben's kind of close friends to stop talking with him. Now I just got Ben's last close friend to stop talking with him. Then the final nail in the coffin will be when I get Ben's girlfriend. Not Ben. When I get Jeff's girlfriend. Ha ha ha. Spoiled kid really believes that he just won right here. So he's telling Ben, quote unquote, which is actually the principal behind the screen, right? Everything. The principal airdrops or takes screenshots, sends the files to his computer, prints it out on literal physical paper, puts it in an envelope, grabs the envelope, and starts walking towards the spoiled kid's class. So he knows the spoiled kid. He looked up on the computer which class the spoiled kid was in, and went up to his class 5 minutes before it got out, was literally just waiting outside, and then the bell rang, the door opened. The spoiled kid is walking out, and his chest is all puffed out. He's all excited, pumped up, because he's like, dude, I'm literally dancing on this kid Jeff right now. I'm literally dancing on him. And after I'm done dancing on him, I'm going to steal his girlfriend, dude. I'm literally on a heater, bro. I'm never going to miss. And, yeah, that's when he was faced with the principal, who stopped him and said, hey, can I talk to you for a second? And spoiled kid's like, yeah, sure, okay. And the principal looks at him and is like, so, out of curiosity, have you been asking people or paying people $10 to stop talking to a fellow classmate? Because that would be bullying and harassment, by the way. The spoiled kid's like, dude, no, I'd never do that. He's like, have you talked to Ben specifically about that? Just out of curiosity. And, at this point, the spoiled kid's like, oh, dude, no, Ben's a loser. I'd never talked to him, bro. I've never even spoken to him on social media ever, which the kid didn't know he was literally digging his own grave. And the principal's like, oh, so do you want to explain these to me? Total Chris Hansen style, pulls out the manila envelope, shows all the screenshots on a piece of paper. And the spoiled kid's like, dude, that's not even, what? And at that point, the spoiled kid knew he messed up. So yeah, the principal brought him to the front office. The principal also had a little bit of an investigation and interviewed everybody else that was paid off. Those kids didn't get in trouble because while they did something a little snaky, they didn't technically break any rules or anything. The principal did tell them, look, what you guys did was pretty messed up, but you're not in trouble. Just don't do that again in the future, just for life lesson or whatever. But yeah, the spoiled kid himself actually got 3 days of suspension. But the most important thing is, not just the 3 days of suspension, he had to write an apology letter to both Jeff and Maddie, his girlfriend. Dude, Today we have a story of this teacher who completely owns this spoiled kid. I know you guys will enjoy it. It's a perfect karma story. Let's just get into it.
And we're crying, crying, crying like a wounded animal.
Following subscriber in today's story, John. So this all happened one day when John was in 7th grade. And John had a regular teacher in his history class. However, the teacher was sick and was pretty sick, had a pretty bad case of the cold, but happened to be out for an entire week. John didn't know this at the time, but, the substitute teacher just came in every single day that week. So his teacher happened to be out for the week. And this substitute teacher was pretty epic, was a pretty cool guy. As you will see, it's not apparent at first, but trust me, the payoff is totally worth it. There's also a bully in John's school, unfortunately. And the bully is in John's history class. History, okay. In John's history class, right? And this bully has been kind of known as like the bully for the longest time. John is in 7th grade and he's been going to the same school since he was in 1st grade. And this kid has always been known as a school bully since 1st grade, since the first year John has been there. And obviously, as the kid has gotten older, he's gotten more, crueler and more sophisticated with his bullying. But he just never stopped. And John would always tell his parents, and his parents were like, oh, well, he's going to grow up someday. And let me just say, it has been 7 years. It has been 7 years of long bullying. And John's been waiting for long enough. So this all happened. Let's go to day one. So day one, John comes into class and he's waiting for his regular teacher, and the substitute teacher walks in instead. And John's like, oh, okay, I guess we have a substitute today. And the substitute is like, hey, class, my name is Mr. Davenport. I will be substituting for Mr. Kavanaugh because, he's sick today. And if he's sick for any other days this week, I'll be substituting as well. We'll be doing normal activities. Class will be continuing as usual. I've studied the lesson plan and things will be normal. So anyways, on the first day, class was fairly normal, and, John was sitting with his friend, Ben. Ben is not the bully this time. He normally is. Whenever I have a bad character, I always name him Ben, because we're just calling the bully. So John and Ben were sitting together, and they were doing some kind of some reading activity in the class or something. And that's when they look over and they see the bully. And the bully is with his other minions, So a lot of times in school, the bully will have his minions that do whatever he says. And the bully had his minions in this class, and they were sitting there and they were snickering because they were chewing, crunching up and chewing up wads of paper and then spitting them through tubes. So kind of spitballing people in class. And people would turn around and be like, hey, who did that? And they'd look away and snicker. Everyone knew it was the bully, but they also didn't want to mess with the bully because the bully was known for upping his bullying against anyone who kind of fought back. So it was kind of just known that the best thing you could have done in that situation was kind of just ignore it, because the more or the less you ignore it, the worse it gets and the harder it is to actually ignore. And John turned to Ben. He's like, this kid's been the worst for the longest time. Is anyone ever going to put a stop to this kid, or is this kid ever going to grow up? And, Ben is like, dude, I totally see this guy becoming some executive of a company and doing this exact same thing to his subordinates. I see that happening. And John's just like, dude, I know. I told my mom this years ago that he was a bully. My mom's like, oh, he's going to grow up, John. He's going to grow up. Well, he's growing up to be a bigger butt than he was before. And the thing is, right, the bully overhears this. And the bully turns around and is like, hello, John. And John's like, oh, hello there. And the bully's like, well, did I hear you guys talking about me? And Ben is like, no. The bully's like, well, I don't know. Last time I went to the doctor, last time I got my ears checked, the doctor said that they were pretty good, that I could hear quite well. So I really don't know what's going on. Because I thought I heard my name. And John's like, nope, you must have heard it wrong. The bully's like, well, I guess that's the case. And that better have been the case. Have a good day, fellas. Bully turns around, goes back to making spitballs. So John and Ben are kind of talking with each other. And that's when John feels a wad of wetness appear on his neck. And he looks at it, and sure enough, it's one of the bully's spitballs. And the bully and his little minions are laughing or whatever. And Ben's like, you shouldn't, don't react, John. And John, he does kind of he does the cool thing, but also probably not the greatest idea. He takes a spitball, and he throws it right back at the bully. And the bully, it catches him, on the eyebrow. And the bully peels the spitball off of his eyebrow and looks directly at John and legitimately just says, "You're going to regret that." And Ben whispers like, "Dude, why did you do that? Everyone knows if you just ignore him, he'll go away." And John turns to his friend Ben and says, "Bro, I've been ignoring him for the longest time. Everyone ignores him and he just gets away with this all the time." And Ben's like, "Was that worth it? Throwing that spitball back at him? Was that really worth it?" And John's like, "You know what? Yes, it was." So the bell rings and everyone's leaving class. And John is like quickly leaving the class to go to his next class when he immediately finds himself on the floor because the bully stood in front of him, stuck out his leg very stiffly. John tripped on it and fell right over. And John's backpack like wasn't zipped up all the way and it kind of like flung over his head and everything spilled out in front of it. And the bully says, "Nice trip, John. Hopefully I'll see you next fall." And John's like, "You didn't even say the joke right." So Ben comes over, helps John get his stuff back up. And Ben's like, "Man, what did I tell you? You don't want to be messing with that bully, man." And John's like, "You know what? I've had enough of not messing with them. You know what? This is war, man. This is war. And maybe I'm going to be the first one, and maybe I'll be the only one to stand up to this kid. But you know what? I'll be damned if no one else stands up to this kid. I'll be damned if I let this kid, like, bully me again." And Ben's like, "Okay, we'll have fun being tripped." And John's like, "Well, it's not very funny, Ben." And Ben's like, "I'm serious. Like, this kid's going to go hard until you stop." And then John's like, "Well, I'm not going to stop." So the next day rolls around, right? And, John goes into school and he doesn't really think anything of it. And he goes into class and this kid is just staring him down the entire class. And John and Ben are sitting together. And this isn't like an activity class. This is kind of a sit there and listen to the lecture class. And Ben kind of leans over and whispers, "John." John's like, "Yeah, what's up, Ben?" And Ben's like, "Dude, the bully's staring at you." And John's like, "Dude, I know. His eyes are piercing the back of my skull." Sure enough, right, the bully has just been like staring at John, kind of smiling. And his two little minions are like staring as well. And the substitute teacher at the front of the class doesn't seem to be paying any attention to this. Little did you guys know he actually is, but that's for later in the story. He comes in to be pretty epic later on. But anyways, John's like, "You know what? I don't care, Ben. He can stare at me all he wants. If he really wants me like that, I'm going to have to let him down softly because I don't want to hurt his feelings." And Ben's like, "Dude, you're getting yourself in really deep. I don't know if this is a good idea." And Ben's like, "This is a great idea. This is probably my best idea yet." It was maybe not John's best idea yet because John gets up to leave and he's very careful not to trip over anything. And that's when he's met at the end. Like, as soon as he leaves the classroom, he bumps right into the bully who's standing there. He's like, "Oh, hello there, John." And John's like, "Hi." The bully's like, "Well, I don't know if you're available this afternoon, but I just gotta have a word with you this afternoon." John's like, "I'm actually busy. I gotta go home." And the bully's like, "I think you'll find time. I think you'll find time." And then the bully and his minions walk away. And Ben walks up to him. He's like, John, what just happened?" And John's like, "Dude, what?" "He just came up to me and said, am I free this afternoon?" And Ben's like, "Oh my God." And John's like, "Dude, what?" "He just said if I'm free this afternoon." And Ben's like, dude, no." And John's like, "Dude, what is going on?" And Ben's like, "Bro, that's what he tells people before he beats them up, bro." And Ben's like, "Dude, what?" And John's like, "Yeah." John's like, "What?" And Ben's like, "Dude, you gotta hide." And sure enough, John is starting to take this a little bit more seriously because while the bully is not that harmful, like physically, when you don't push back, in the rare cases people have pushed back, he has tried to continuously like show his authority, basically, show his dominance. Or however he chooses to do that. So Ben and John are like, John's like, "All right, well, this probably isn't a good idea. We got to find a way to sneak out of school because there's like one main exit and kind of like the place where people get picked up because John rides the bus, right? There's like a place where the bus always arrives, but to get there, you have to go through this main hall. And Ben and John sit down and realize that the bully is most likely going to try and intercept them in the main hall and like pull John aside and, give him a few 1-2s, you know what I mean? And so John is like, "All right, Ben, well, we gotta figure this out." So they look around, they find another exit, and so they basically decide to skip their next class. Normally a bad idea, but this is quite the circumstances. So they're looking around, And, they look and they're like, oh my God, here's another exit. And then they see it's a fire exit. So if they push this, they'll push the fire alarm. They'll get in a ton of trouble. It'll just be it'll be a bad situation, right? It'll be a bad deal. Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment bully down below, and I'll try and heart as many comments to say that. I just want to see how many people, and I also want to see the names and the faces of the people supporting this channel by watching this far. If you don't know, the best way to support this channel is just by watching the videos. It's called watch time. YouTube really appreciates that. So if you want to really support the channel, maybe now or later, sit down and watch 2, 3, 4, watch as many videos as you possibly can. And also, you can do this while gaming, drawing, trying to go to sleep, cleaning your room, literally whatever. And please go in the comment section down below and tell me what you are doing while binge watching the videos and supporting the channel. And I'll shout some people out, like the person on screen right now who is doing this. So thank you to this person on screen, as well as thank you to all of you guys for supporting the channel by binge watching the videos. With that being said, let's get back to the story. So at this point, right, John and Ben are looking around frantically, skipping a class, right? So they're taking it pretty seriously, trying to find an exit, which is not going to be the exit that the bully expects, because there's normally one main way that everyone leaves the building and then goes to the bus or goes to get picked up. And they're assuming that the bully is going to know this, which, I mean, he is going to know this, and he's going to be waiting there, and he's going to pick John up and give him the whole 1-2, right? So John and Ben are looking around, and they do find an exit. However, unfortunately, it is a fire escape. And Ben is looking at his watch. He's like, dude, we got 10 minutes till the bell rings. And John's like, well, can't we just wait it out? And he's like, dude, like, you're going to miss the bus, and then you're going to be stranded here. And John's like, I could always call my mom and say I missed the bus. And Ben's like, bro, they're going to know that you didn't leave, and they're going to come find you in this building, one of his minions at least, right? And then you're going to be stuck here probably for an hour without your mom coming to pick you up. You don't want to do this. And John's like, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to walk there and just like let it happen? And Ben's like, we still got 10 minutes. We can figure this out. So John and Ben are frantically like going around the school trying to figure it out. And that's when Ben actually has the brilliant idea of John. And Ben's like, what? And John's like, what? And Ben's like, dude, I figured it out. We're not supposed to be looking for doors. And John's like, dude, what do you mean we're not supposed to be looking for doors? And Ben's like, windows, John. There are no fire exit windows. And John's like, oh. So then now they start looking around, and a lot of the windows are like glued shut or way too high or have like some screen in them. But that's when they go into the bathroom. And they find glass windows that when you like crank them, they go up, and when you crank them, they go down. There's no massive drop. It's like a 3-foot drop or something. They're not super big, but you can put your backpack through them, and then you can crawl through them as well. And it's the perfect escape. And that's when the bell rings. And John and Ben are like, all right, or Ben's like, all right, John, let's go. So sure enough, John pushes his backpack through. Ben pushes his backpack through. John gets up there, goes to the window, drops down, says it's all good, not a big drop or anything. Ben goes through, does the same thing. They get their backpacks on, and they sneak around the school, and then they see the bus, and they sprint towards the bus. And they're sprinting towards the bus. They get on it, and they both sit in the back. And when they both sit in the back, they're looking out, and they see one of the bully's minions walk out to the bus and look around, right? And that's when the bully makes eye contact with John and calls back. And John's like, dude, they see us. And, Ben's like, okay, what we need to do is we need to go to the front of the bus. And Ben's like, or John's like, why would we need to go to the front of the bus? He's like, shenanigans happens in the back of the bus, John. And John's like, okay. And then Ben's like, the bus driver will not allow this kid to beat you up in the front of the bus. And John's like, all right, totally fair. That makes a lot of sense. So John and Ben go all the way up to the front of the bus. And that's when, as they're about to leave, the bully gets on and says, oh, John, I thought we were having a little date this later tonight. And John turns to Ben and he's like, see, I told you he's into me. And Ben's like, pay attention. And the bully's like, so sad that you had to avoid us. Well, I'll be seeing you tomorrow. So anyways, the next day in history class, John and Ben are sitting together, and the teacher is handing back, grades from a test that, was administered the week before. And the bully was sitting behind this girl. Let's just call her Caitlin for the sake of this. She doesn't really come up again, so I'll call her Caitlin, and if I forget, who cares? So the teacher's giving back the tests, And, John and Ben did fine. John got an A minus, Ben got a B, like totally fine grades. And when the teacher gives the test back to Caitlin, Caitlin ends up getting a C. And, C is, I guess, fine enough. It's not a grade you should be shooting for in a lot of cases. Maybe some math classes I can understand. But either way, Caitlin was really not happy with it. And the bully turns around and is like, oh no, the waterworks. And Caitlin starts crying a little bit. The bully's like, oh no, did you disappoint your parents again by doing bad? Well, next time, just try harder, Caitlin. And the bully turns around and his minions are laughing. And, John is like, dude, this guy's legitimately the worst. Do you see why I'm standing up to him? And Ben's like, are you really standing up to him? Like, you're just running away from him at this point. And John's like, what would you do in my situation? And Ben's like, I don't know, be a bystander, stay quiet, like keep my head down and wait till I get to leave middle school. And John's like, that's not the point, Ben. That's not the point. This kid is doing this and we're allowing it to happen. And, Ben's like, yeah, we are. It sucks. What do you want us to do? John's like, I don't know. And no one was noticing, but the substitute teacher was starting to really pay attention to everything that was going on in class, right? So after school again, John and Ben, they're going around, they're walking around, and they're trying to they're going to the bathroom, right? And they're skipping the last class, or they're leaving 5 minutes early from their last class because they have to get quote unquote picked up early. They faked like a absentee note from their parents or whatever. So they're out of class 5 minutes early and they're both walking to the bathroom. And that's when they run into the substitute teacher. Substitute teacher's like, hey boys. And they're like, hey, Mr. Davenport. And Mr. Davenport's like, boys, I don't think you're supposed to be out of class yet. And, Ben's like, yeah, well, we have a reason. And John's like, no, we left class early. And Mr. Davenport's like, boys, you can't be doing that. And that's when John's like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to tell him everything. So John lays it out and tells him literally everything. And Mr. Davenport's like, wow. I was starting to pick up on some themes going on as well as, the bully did in class to Caitlin today, but I didn't know it went down that deep. Are you boys able to get any evidence for me? And, the kids are like, what? And, the substitute teacher's like, yeah, I've actually been putting together a bit of a file recently on this kid. I was a little disturbed when I saw him trip you, and I wanted to really, really get some. I wanted to stand back. I wanted to be a bystander. I wanted to watch what was happening so that I could collect enough evidence so that this kid, who seems like a real systemic problem, could be dealt with properly. And at this point, right, John's like, wait, so you saw that all? And the substitute teacher's like, yes, but, what power do I have as a substitute? However, I do have the power if I sit back and watch and observe everything and write it down and get evidence that I can submit a real file and really get a mark on this kid's record and maybe stop him for good if he wants a future. And John's like, oh my God. And Ben turns to him and says, like, dude, we need proof that this kid's going to try and beat you up. And John's like, I don't know how we're going to do it. He always words it weirdly. And John's like, well, maybe I should go meet him. And the substitute teacher's like, I don't think that's necessary, right? Like, I don't want like to put you in danger. And John's like, no, but I need to get this kid gone. And substitute teacher's like, well, I don't know how much the administration would like this, but I can stand guard, and right before anything happens, I can come and break it up. And John and Ben kind of look at each other like, okay, this is like some scrawny random substitute teacher. What if like he really holds no authority? And John's like, well, I got to stop this kid somehow. So sure enough, right, John turns to Ben and says, Ben, you need to record everything. So Ben has his phone out and he starts recording, right? And they walk down the halls. And Ben's trying to be like, it's not super obvious with his recording. So he kind of like pretends like he's just on his phone. The flash is off. He's able to record it pretty well without it being super obvious. And eventually, so they're walking down the hall and the bully's like, well, boys, I wasn't sure if I was going to see you today. It's great that you're here. And he's like, Ben, I don't really have any issues with you. You can keep going. And Ben's like, well, I'm just going to wait for John. Will you ride the bus tomorrow? The bully's like, I don't think that John will be riding the bus today. And Ben's like, well, then I won't be riding the bus today either. The bully's like, fine, well, then stand over there unless you want to become collateral damage. And so Ben does step away. And, the bully starts coming up to John. And John's like, what are you going to do to me? And the bully's like, no, I'm just going to, we're just going to have a little time. And then the bully, like, kind of comes up to him menacingly. And he's like, why did you disrespect me in class 2 days ago? And John's like, you spat a spitball at me. I just threw it back to you. That sounds fair. The bully's like, there is a rule of law here. There's a hierarchy here. Some of us are above others at this school, and I'm just here to enforce it. And John's like, how are you going to enforce it? And the bully lifts up his fist and says, this fist will make contact with your face. That is the rule of law at this school. And as soon as that happens, the substitute teacher sprints out of there and is like, hey, break it up, boys, break it up. And, the bully turns around and says, oh, Mr. Davenport, like, nothing's going on here. I'm just having a talk with my friend. Mr. Davenport's like, well, it doesn't look like that to me. John, I'm going to need you to come with me. The bully's like, no, John's staying with us. And Mr. Davenport's like, I can get the principal over here. And the bully's like, fine, you know what, John, we'll have a little talk later. Go ahead. See you in class tomorrow, Mr. Davenport. And the bully and his minions walk away. And, Mr. Davenport's like, oh my God, that was so close. That was really reckless of me to even let that happen. And John's like, no, we got it on a recording. He turns to Ben. He's like, Ben, you got that on recording, right? And Ben's like, yep, got it on recording. He's like, audio? Checks it. He's like, yep, visuals? He's like, visuals are pretty good, a little shaky, because I didn't want it to be obvious. I caught it all. At this point, right, Ben, Mr. Davenport, and John, they all go back to Mr. Davenport's, classroom, or it's his substitute teacher. So it was, the other teacher's classroom, but they go to that classroom. And, John's like, hey, can you call up my mother and say I'm not going to be, that I had to stay late for an extra help project and that, that I'm not going to be able to make the bus. So Mr. Davenport calls up his mom, and John's mom's like, oh my God, are John and Ben in trouble? Mr. Davenport's like, actually, the contrary. They wanted to help me with an assignment, and they will be getting extra credit. And John's like, oh, that's so nice. Whatever, right? So afterwards, John, Ben, and Mr. Davenport sit down, and they basically construct a case against this kid. They construct bits of evidence. John starts hitting up other kids in his class, basically asking for testimonials. They are making a full takedown of this kid, right? Of years and years and years of just everything, right? And at this point, they end up with a really solid case file. They have enough to at least get him suspended, if not expelled from the school at this point. So the real nail in the coffin is when, Ben turns to John. He's like, John, do you remember James? And they're like, yeah, James, whatever happened to him? Ben's like, dude, that was the kid that, the bully actually beat up. And so basically, right, there's this kid who they haven't spoken to in a while, but there was a rumor that the reason why he was gone for a week is because he was in the hospital and because the bully beat him up. And when he tried to say that oh, the bully did it, the bully was able to weasel out of it. And John's like, dude, with all this evidence, if we got a medical record about James and put him in the case, we could get this kid out. So they contact James. He's not really responding, but Ben remembers, oh my God, I was in a sixth grade group chat with this kid. I have his number. So they call him up and James is like, hello. And Ben and John say, hey, I don't know if you remember us. They explain everything. And James is like, look, this kid has been giving me grief for the longest time ever I tried to rat him out. I've been out, he isn't giving me any more grief. I don't know if I want to do this because, look, I will suffer the consequences if he doesn't get completely, kicked out of the school and, my name's attached to this. And then Mr. Davenport speaks up and says, hey, James, you don't know me, but I'm the substitute teacher, Mr. Davenport. I happen to be decently good friends with, the teacher, well, to say Mr. Kavanaugh, that was the name I gave him. With Mr. Kavanaugh, it's one of the reasons why, he recommended me to come in for this week. And he said, I will make sure that this kid gets, expelled. And the two boys were looking at each other wow, this guy's serious. And, James is like, all right, well, I don't know how much I can help, but I can definitely get you the medical records. And they're like, can you do it by tonight? James is like, yeah, I'll talk to my parents, but we'll see. And John and Ben were like, all right, we'll see. Thank you so much. Tonight would be the greatest. We're trying to get this in by tomorrow, and things might leak if we don't. So anyways, later that night, Mr. Davenport's like, all right, just send me the stuff on your school email. It doesn't matter. It's on school email. I don't care. So sure enough, right, the next day or that night, James sends them like a medical record. He said, this is the date, this is the injuries, like this, like it wasn't enough to put this guy away, or not put this guy away, but get him suspended before. But hopefully, James is like, hopefully with all the other evidence you have, this will be enough to get the bully out of the school. So they send it to James. James sends it to Mr. Davenport. And Mr. Davenport is like, all right, men, like I will need you tomorrow bright and early. I'm going to excuse you from all your classes. You're coming with me. We're all going to go into the principal's office and we're dropping this bombshell. So the next day rolls around, as it always does. But this was a special day. They all walk in. John, Ben, and Mr. Davenport walk to the principal's office. They sit down. John and Ben explains everything that's happened, not just this week, but ever. And Mr. Davenport explains all the things he's observed. And the principal's like, wow, this is quite a lot. And Mr. Davenport's like, well, this isn't it. And Mr. Davenport then sends like the terabyte large, okay, it's probably smaller than a terabyte, but the very large file that they've created with all the evidence, with all the like the references, with all the people's testimonies. And the principal's like, wow, this is intense. And Mr. Davenport's like, it's really thorough too. And so basically, right, the principal's office is like, we need a couple days to go through this. And the principal's office, like, Ben and John, like, you guys can be excused for the next couple days. You're not suspended, you're not anything. But if you want to take the next couple days off just for your own protection as we vet through this, that's totally fine. So John and Ben were like, oh, shoot, like, of course, the school contacts their parents. They explain that they're not in trouble. It's for their own safety. And John's mom's like, oh, John, you should have told me about this, whatever. So a couple days go by. And that's when Mr. Davenport emails John. And the headline of the email is, the verdict is in. So John immediately, he sees the notification on his phone, and he immediately opens up the Gmail app, and he's just swiping and refreshing, and he eventually opens up the app, gets in there, opens the email, and it's one line saying,
Click on the video on screen
"We
right
won."
now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it.